Welcome to the Your Next Move podcast. Today, we are going to talk about books. Reading has been something I've been working to prioritize over the past few years. And I have a few reads that I'd like to share with you. And I'd also love if y'all let me know what you are reading. So whether you are listening on the podcast or you are watching a clip on a gram or you are on YouTube, comment and let me know what you are reading. I think that reading is so important. In the day and age of there being coaches everywhere and all different classes and conferences and workshops, I think sometimes we forget that there are authors out there, shameless plug like me, who have written books that really help you navigate any issues or dilemmas that you currently have. And people have put together thousands of words, literally, to help you make your next move. So I want to share with you some of my favorite reads. I have 15 that I have either read really recently or are on my list to read. And let me know what you think. So first up, I have to shout out Lovey, Professional Troublemaker, the Fear Fighter Manual. I loved this book. If you are looking for someone to put the battery in your back to take you from being, I don't even want to say fearless, but motivate you to be courageous, Lovey's book was really it. I personally, when I know an author, when I know them well enough where I want to hear them, I got to listen on Audible. I bought the book physically and then got the Audible version too. And it really was one of those really great motivational reads. But also she put some tangible steps in there. Lovey even talks about salary negotiation in her books. Definitely a favorite read of mine. Next up, you know I talk about this book all the time. Whenever anyone asked me about quiet quitting, I bring up Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nedra Glover Tawwab. I've had the pleasure of hearing Nedra speak 2 times this past year in 2022. She is the boundary master. If you have any issues, whether at home, in the workplace, with your spouse, in your relationships, and you need to work on setting boundaries, this book is for you. It is one of those books where I feel like you need to read it and take the time to ingest it and go back to the chapters that you need more assistance with. It is a forever read, and you must follow her on the gram where she gives so many tips and tricks to help us in our lives with the boundaries in order to make sure that we are living lives that make us happy. Next up is a book I'm currently in the midst of. So I read multiple books at the same time, just so you know. This book is called The 7 Levels of Intimacy, The Art of Loving and the Joy of Being Loved by Matthew Kelly. Y'all, I'm probably about 100 pages into this book and there are flags all over it talking about different types of intimacy. I think many times when we hear the word intimacy, we just think about sex, and it is so much more than sex. There are intellectual intimacy, emotional intimacy, of course, physical intimacy. He goes down the different types of intimacy, what this looks like, what it feels like, how to allow yourself to love and be loved. I didn't put this on the list, but I'm going to mention it now. I also read All About Love by Bell Hooks. I think these 2 books together, if you are really in your dating journey, looking to reinvigorate a relationship, or just curious about love, these 2 books together, I think they're partners, right? Next up, Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. So the biggest point, if you're looking to create better habits in your life, which most of us are, right? We have really great habits in one area and maybe poor habits in another. He really breaks down how do you create better habits. I think this season on the podcast, we've talked so much about making our lives better. And we know sometimes how we want to feel, but we don't understand how to bridge the gap between where we are to where we'd like to be. And having better habits is a huge part of that. And he teaches you tricks like habit stacking, how to make something happen for you. An example of that for me, when I wake up in the morning, I want to really not check my phone. I don't know what happens. I'll just be waking up and I'll just be like, ooh, like my phone is right here. I'm going to touch the phone and magically I'm on Instagram or TikTok. And I didn't do anything I was supposed to do. When you think about habit stacking, it's like what are the things you naturally do? So when you wake up in the morning, I want to read an affirmation for the day. So my affirmations are right there. Right underneath my affirmations is my journal. So I go for my journal first and I put my phone farther away. So I can really start to create better habits for myself when I wake up in the morning. So if you're thinking about habits in your life, I definitely recommend that book. And I know it's a New York Times bestseller time and time and time and time again. I also started the book, How Are You Really? Living Your Truth One Answer at a Time by Jenna Kutcher. Jenna is one of the most authentic humans who I've had the pleasure of being on their podcast and following her content for years. And even just the title of her book, How Are You Really? In the day and age of going to the next, the fastest thing, the best book, the best coach, the best job, the best company, we are doing so many things, but not really checking in with how do we really feel every single day. And Jenna goes through a process of living authentically and being so vulnerable and so transparent about her life. It's been a really great read that I'm currently in the midst of. Next up is Finding Me, a memoir by Viola Davis. Y'all, I listened to this on Audible. It was such a joy to learn more about Viola Davis, her upbringing, her thoughts, her motivations, how she goes about doing things. A powerful read. I'm obsessed with memoirs, so I have read a lot of them. Another one I'll mention here, I didn't mention in my notes, but I'll say I love the Mariah Carey memoir as well. I listened to it, and fun fact, she also pops in and sings a little bit before some of the chapters. For memoirs, I always listen on Audible because I like to hear the author talk. But Viola Davis, incredible read and learning more about her. I also this year, I really wanted to give myself a moment to get out of my own head, to escape and read a little something that wasn't business or development or about someone's life. So I also read a Terry McMillan book, 2 Terry McMillan books. So if you remember Terry McMillan, Waiting to Exhale, I definitely watched that movie a few times this year and loved reliving my old memories of thoughts when I saw it again. So I read Getting to Happy and I Almost Forgot About You. Both were such great, easy reads that I listened to on Audible. And just, I cleaned my home, I relaxed, I drove in the car, and I just love just hearing just stories. And I really enjoyed those reads. 2 other memoirs I have on this list are Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Y'all, the story behind the line, all right, all right, all right. Like the story behind that, and I know that was a bad impression, y'all. I know it was bad. But the story behind that line is insane. I think reading Matthew's story about his upbringing and seeing where he's come from, where he is today, things that he was intentional about versus things that just happened, like that line and how he's known for that forever now. I loved that book with Matthew. Also shout out to the Calm app. Matthew McConaughey's sleep story continuously puts me to sleep. Like at least like once or twice a week. I haven't gotten past the first 5 minutes. That's my favorite story on the Calm app. His voice is very soothing. And as we're thinking about voices, I think this year, Will Smith has had some moments in 2022, but his book is amazing. I bought the physical copy, but within the first 10 pages, I was like, why am I reading this physically when I can hear him? And the book was an experience. I actually went to go see him on his book tour, and it was like part concert, part book tour, hearing about his life, the transitions he's been through, his commitment to his success. And as we know, he's been radically honest about when he does well, when he does bad, all the things. I really enjoyed that read as well. 2 books that I did not read this year. I think I read them in 2021, but I thought were really important. In my transition from going from a 9-to-5 to a entrepreneur, I read 2 books by Tim Grover, and they really, really kind of gave me that, like, shout out to Kobe, Mamba mentality. I was about that life when I was reading these books. And Tim Grover was also a coach for Kobe and Michael Jordan. The books were Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable, and Winning, The Unforgiving Race to Greatness. These books, my therapist said I shouldn't be reading them. but I really liked them because it's really about that relentless pursuit of greatness. And I think when you have a goal in mind, when you're charging forward, making big changes in your life, for me, I need to be focused. I need to have my eyes on the prize. I don't need to be thinking about anyone else. I need to be relentless. And when you think about people who have coached athletes, you're thinking about Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, Dwayne Wade too, Tim Grover's worked with all three of them, and thinking about the mindset of the coach who is behind some of the greatest athletes in the world, you could already think about what this book is like. The mindset that it kind of helps you get into to drive towards your own success. I think the reality of moving toward a goal, it can be very lonely sometimes. Not every goal that you have is going to be shared with a team, your family, your friends, and there has to be a deeper knowing inside of you to push to achieve that goal. And these two books are things that I will come back to. I will turn on. I will just listen sometimes to a random chapter if I know I need a little battery in my back to get through and get some momentum. Next up, a recommendation that I have that I'm currently listening to is What Happened to You? Conversations on Trauma, Resilience, and Healing. This one is by Oprah Winfrey and Bruce D. Perry. And this year in 2022, I'm trying to understand myself as much as possible, understand the impact of experiences that I've had, understand my own healing journey, understand what it's like when you are healing physically, emotionally from something, and how that gets tested. So this was a recommendation that I saw from, who was it? Kevin Curry. So shout out to Fit Men Cook. He talked about this book on the gram, and he's given really great recommendations. Probably doesn't know that, but he gave me another devotional recommendation a few years back that I always come back to. So I purchased this, and I've been listening to this book as well when I get a moment. Another book I have not started to read, but I want to share it with you because if you are a creator and you publish any content on YouTube, I've heard this book is what you need to read. So it is on my list. It is The YouTube Formula: How Anyone Can Unlock the Algorithm to Drive Views, Build an Audience, and Grow Revenue by Darrell Eves. It's been it's been next to my desk for a minute, but it's one of those books where I know I need to implement. I have heard from my community that this book is so helpful. I hope to know very, very soon if it's very helpful, but I had to share it with you. And I got two more for you. Book number 14 is Building a Story Brand. Clarify Your Message So Customers Will Listen by Donald Miller. This is on my next up list as well. And this is really about learning how to clarify your messaging, how to tell your story to allow people to buy into your vision. Now, some of these books you'll be like, Kim, this is entrepreneur stuff. This isn't for people who are 9-to-5s. I read books on both sides of the spectrum because they help on both sides of the spectrum. With any book that you read, don't think that you have to take it all and apply it all. You take what you need and you leave the rest. And when I think of building a story brand as a 9-to-5 professional, someone who is striving for that next role, especially for our executives who are looking to move into higher level roles, and we're talking about executive presence and communication, being able to tell stories, clarifying your message and your communication is crucial. Highly recommend this book for them as well. And last but not least, I just started this book this week actually, and I had to share. I was signing my own book at my local bookstore partner who ships out books whenever I have speaking engagements. And I decided that I needed to jump on the Colleen Hoover bandwagon. Everybody loves Colleen Hoover. So I asked the bookstore what book I should go for. So I picked up Verity. So I just started it. This is my nighttime read that I am making my way through. So with that, I know that I gave you 15 books. They will be in the show notes below so you can go and check them out. And not so shameless plug, y'all. Book number 16 is my own book. If you have not read Next Move, Best Move, Transitioning into a Career You'll Love, I invite you to pick up your copy wherever books are sold. This is my body of work to help professionals in the workplace build a 2-year career strategy to make their next move. And, I think it's pretty good, so you should check it out. If you have recommendations, please let me know. I'm always looking to take them. Hit me up online and let me know what you are reading. And with that, I hope your next move is your very best move.